On March 17, 1988, Avianca Flight 410, a routine domestic flight from Cúcuta to Cartagena, ended in catastrophe just minutes after takeoff. This was no act of sabotage, no engine failure, no mysterious disappearance. Instead, it was a sequence of human errors that doomed the flight, highlighting the devastating consequences of complacency in aviation. What really happened that day, and how could such a preventable disaster unfold? Let's unravel the story of Avianca Flight 410. The aircraft at the heart of this tragedy was a Boeing 727, a sturdy trijet that had served airlines around the world. Registered as HK-1716, the plane was 22 years old at the time of the crash, but was deemed airworthy. This model, with its iconic design, was known for its reliability in short and medium-haul routes. On March 17th, it was tasked with ferrying 136 passengers and 7 crew members from Camilo Daza International Airport in Cúcuta to Cartagena. The planned route was straightforward, but like many airports in Colombia, Camilo Daza is surrounded by challenging geography. A precise departure procedure was essential to avoid the rugged Andes Mountains, particularly Cerro El Espartillo, which looms ominously just 22 kilometers away from the runway. At 1:13 p.m., Flight 410 began its takeoff roll. Conditions were ideal, clear skies and calm winds. The plane ascended smoothly, but from the very beginning, something was wrong. Instead of following the standard instrument departure procedure, the flight deviated significantly from its assigned path. The IDP required the crew to follow a specific radial of 138 degrees to safely clear the mountainous terrain. But for reasons that remain unclear, the crew instead banked the plane left, setting it on a collision course with Cerro El Espartillo. At an altitude of just over 6,200 feet, the aircraft slammed into the mountain, obliterating everything on board. When the wreckage was found scattered across the mountainside, investigators were faced with an urgent question: why did this happen? The aircraft was fully operational, the weather posed no challenges, and there were no reports of mechanical failures. So, what went wrong in the cockpit? The investigation revealed a troubling chain of errors. First, the crew failed to follow the prescribed departure route. Whether this was due to overconfidence, poor communication, or distraction remains speculative. However, a glaring issue was their apparent lack of situational awareness. The aircraft's navigation instruments, including the VOR and the distance measuring equipment, could have provided critical data about their position relative to the mountain. But these tools were either ignored or misinterpreted, leaving the crew effectively blind to the danger ahead. The problems in the cockpit were further compounded by the presence of a pilot who was actually the passenger on the flight. He was constantly talking and interfering as the pilots were trying to fly the aircraft around the mountain. This in turn increased the confusion among the pilots instead of helping them. The final seconds of the flight were marked by a lack of reaction from the pilots. No evasive maneuvers were attempted, suggesting they were completely unaware of the mountain looming directly in their flight path. There are some reports which state that even though the weather at the airport was near perfect, the mountain itself was covered in fog, which made it impossible for the pilots to see where they were headed. This could be the case given that the pilots did not carry out any evasive measures to get their plane away from danger. A deeper look into the accident highlights critical human factors. Experts pointed to poor crew coordination and inadequate adherence to standard operating procedures. These issues weren't unique to Flight 410, but were symptoms of a broader problem in the aviation industry of the time: a lack of robust crew resource management. CRM training focuses on improving communication, teamwork, and decision-making in the cockpit. In the years following this crash, Airlines around the world, including Avianca, adopted CRM as a mandatory component of pilot training. But for the 143 people on Flight 410, these lessons came far too late. The crash of Flight 410 was a turning point for Colombian aviation. The country's aviation authorities were criticized for lax enforcement of safety protocols, and Avianca itself faced significant backlash. In response, a series of reforms were introduced, including stricter oversight of departure procedures and mandatory CRM training for all flight crews. Additionally, departure protocols for airports surrounded by challenging terrain were re-evaluated and standardized. These measures have since been credited with preventing similar tragedies in the region. Avianca Flight 410 is more than just a tragedy. It's a sobering reminder of the importance of precision, vigilance, and humility in aviation. In an era where technology and human skill must work in perfect harmony, even small deviations can lead to catastrophic consequences. The lessons from this disaster have undoubtedly saved countless lives, but the memory of those 143 lives lost remain a stark warning to all those who take to the skies. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the story of Avianca Flight 410. If you found this video insightful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more stories from the world of aviation. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What other aviation incidents should we explore next? Until then, fly safe and stay curious.